Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Sunday, the 16th of May, 2025. Oh, sorry, it's the 18th today, isn't it? Bloody hell. It is Sunday, the 18th of May, 2025. Well done for making it this far. I'm Graham Hughes. You're watching Sunday Service with me, Graham Hughes. Not to be confused with Sunday Service with Supertansky, which may look similar, but it's a different show. Scott is saying good morning. We've got Diz in the chat as well. We've got Francis as well. And also we've got Janeway. Hello, and Billy. If you'd like to join them in the chat, all you need to do is press the subscribe button, wait for a minute, and join it. But don't be a troll, because we don't abide trolls here. There's plenty other places. There's little dark places of the internet. Dark, wet places of the internet. Dark, wet, cold places that you can hunch over with your little club, waiting for someone to come over your bridge so you can extol a toll from those motherfuckers. Okay, go over there. Go over there and do that. Don't do it here. So today we're going to be talking about refuck being used as a Trojan horse for the far right. Now, some of you watching this are going to be going, "Come on, Graham, let's be serious. You know, Nigel Farage is the far right." Yes, he is. But he at least pretends that he actually cares about this country, and he's not friends with Tommy Robinson, and he knows people in his party, people who would otherwise vote for refuck, because he's not racist enough, you know. And he says, I don't want anything to do with these racists. But the problem is, you can't tell someone is a Nazi by looking at them unless they've got a swastika tattooed to their face. Generally speaking, it's a bit difficult. And what's to stop Nazis from just wearing a suit and joining refuck? Well, it appears not much. This is going to be a bit of a stark warning about extremist ideologies and the fact that they're attempting to hijack refuck from within. And they're not even doing it quietly. You know, they're like, here's the plan, everyone. Don't tell anyone. And this isn't speculation. There's two people called Mark Collett and David Clews, who are massive racists, who have talked openly about this plan. So David Clews is a far-right influencer. He's also a conspiracy theorist. He operates something called the United News Network, UNN. Little, you know, Facebook, what's it called? YouTube, Twitch, I don't know, operation. And he has promoted entryism, which we should all be on our guard about, because it's not great when it happens to any political party, but particularly a party that's already far right, as far as I'm concerned, and being infiltrated by people who don't think that it is far right enough. This guy, David Clews, he's promoted entryism. He's encouraged his followers to join refuck and rise through the ranks. And then there's this other guy called Mark Collett, who's ex-BNP. He's the founder of the Patriotic Alternative, or PA. He's an open neo-Nazi. He thinks the wrong people won World War II. He's convinced. He's got associates who have been convicted, and multiple members of his Patriotic Alternative have been charged with hate crimes and terrorism. So these guys aren't little soft, fluffy Nazis, you know? They're not comedy Nazis from hello. They're dyed-in-the-wool Nazis. They'll kill you because you're different, or you disagree with them. Or maybe, I don't know, you got a disability, because they're a bit like that, aren't they? You scratch a Nazi, find a eugenicist. Not very nice people. The people who have got nothing going for them in their lives, and so the only thing they've got going for them is the fact that they happen to pop out their mum at a particular, position of longitude and latitude. That's it. It's all they've got. It's all they've got. So yeah, he said, a direct quote, I'll quote it here: "We won't be dropping our anti-Zionism, our demands for a white supermajority." That's a direct quote. And he views refuck as a wrecking ball to destroy mainstream parties and shift the Overton window, which we know that Farage is doing anyway. You know, that's part and parcel of what Farage tries to do. Well, I'll say tries. It's part and parcel of what he actually does. He is, he's that guy. He is that guy. So anyway, I'll just drop into the chat for a moment. Got Saz in there saying hi. Everyone's saying morning to each other. It's really nice. Victoria says, I agree about refucking of a Trojan horse. Absolutely. Spain was sad, said David. I'm checking news and I think Spain was boycott. It seems national TV channel was warned of not doing comments about Israel introducing videos, and they did. Let's just talk a little bit of a tangent. So the Eurovision Song Contest last night, again, the Israeli government have spent millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions on promoting themselves in the Eurovision Song Contest, and they nearly won. They came second. And how horrific would it have been for everyone to have the next Eurovision Song Contest in Tel Aviv, in a country that is actively committing genocide against the people of Gaza. And I don't think they should have been allowed to perform, in the same way that Russia has not been allowed to perform because it invaded its sovereign neighbour. But here's the thing. According to the British government, this Labour government and the Tory government before it, Palestine's not a state. It's not recognised as an independent sovereign nation. And whenever you hear a politician talking about a two-state solution, which they don't follow up with, so the first thing we need to do is recognise there are two states of equal standing, equal dignity, equal respect, a nation state with a vote in the UN. And we don't do that. And so Israel gets away with stuff that Russia didn't get away with. Russia's been banned from Eurovision after the invasion of Ukraine. And quite rightly as well. And I don't ever use the reason of geography. I think that's absurd. Cyprus is technically Asia, okay? Or you're going to stop Cyprus from being in Eurovision. Israel's been in Eurovision for decades. It won in the 70s. It won a couple of times in the 70s. Like, Australia's a part of Eurovision. I think the actual name Eurovision just comes about because of the fact that it was the Eurovision satellite network, was it? In the 1950s, they were dead excited about being able to transmit the signal from one country to another, and they wanted to do something with that technology. And out of that technology, out of that Cold War tech, came the Eurovision Song Contest. But yeah, it was really, really disturbing, and it's clear. It is clear. It's not. They're not even pretending. They're not doing it. That the Israeli government is paying for adverts for their songs on things like here on YouTube. And you can drill in as you go, you press on the little eye symbol on an advert, and it'll take you to who paid for that advert. And it comes up as the Israeli government on one of their ads. And if you're going to have an event that they want to say is not political, but then you're allowing the political party that runs a particular country to pay millions and millions of dollars, pounds, euros, shekels, whatever, in order to get their act under the noses of the vast majority of people, that's a huge problem. And who do they get under the nose of? People in Britain. We gave, and the votes came out at the very end of the public vote. This isn't the votes of the judges that Sophie Alex Baxter gave out. No, this was the vote, which I think Latvia won. But this was the vote for the public vote in the UK. 12 points went to Israel from the UK. So it might not even have just been adverts. You have to pay every time that you vote. If some people in the UK have been given 100 quid each to vote X many times, you're supposed to be able to vote 20 times and you have to pay each time. So Israel's got the money. I think the whole thing needs to be, they need to have a real think about how they do it. Another thing that I thought was absolutely out of order in this year's Eurovision, the winner was well deserved. The winner definitely, I mean, that was pretty theatrical. It was pretty good. But one of the things that they did this year was they had the phone lines open throughout all the acts. So if you were the last act, if you were Albania, no one's going to vote for you. They've already voted. They've already spent their money voting for Finland, who should have won it, or Estonia, who did the Espresso song, who definitely should have won it, or Sweden, who definitely should have won it. But there you go. Sweden's already won it 7 times, so they don't need to win it again. But yeah, it really, last night's Eurovision, I hate the fact that the far right just want to take away all the joys and pleasures in life. I hate them for it. It's the one thing why I want the far right to not just fail, but fail so miserably that they never rise again. Because they just want to suck all the colour out of life. They want to suck all the fun out of life. They see people having a good time backpacking around Europe, young people doing cultural exchanges, and they're like, I've got to stop that. It's really important that I stop people doing that, because it looks like they're having fun. The same people who get really irate that Glastonbury exists or trans people exist, or, you know, we have pride marches. Oh, how dare you? No, get rid of those rainbow flags. We need everything drab. We need everything autumnal. We want everything grey and brown for the rest of eternity, because that's what life should be. Life should be hard and miserable and mean. And this is because the people who are saying this are hard and miserable and mean. And they want the world to reflect their worldview. They don't want colour. They don't want excitement. They don't want music and dance and fun. They don't want it. They voted for Brexit so that your pint of beer costs twice as much as it used to, because they don't want you getting drunk and having a good time with your mates. They want you sitting in, doom scrolling on the internet, going, oh, fuck, everything's awful, and being too scared to go out your house because you're different. And we've empowered the scumbags who are like, oh, you're different. Oh, I don't want you anywhere near me. Eurovision has always been a camp celebration of progress in Europe. It's always been daft. It's always been daffy. And I love it for it. That's what I like. And the Israelis have just made it, they've just, you know, soured that. They've put the poison the well. They need to be they need to be roped in. And if there is some way of proving that we can show that the Israeli government spent money on advertising, but can we show that they spent money getting fake votes from all these different countries? Do you really think Britain at the moment would have voted for Israel? It wasn't the best song. And Israel is problematic at the moment. Very problematic. But there you go. David says, Graham, it was sad because Melody, the contest lady, said worked very hard, and because of political issues, they destroy all. Oh, the gay flag is true. Only the audience is allowed to wear rainbow flags. Yeah, it was. I mean, like, the artists who came up, the singers gave it all. They actually gave a little bit of a thing in one of the little intermediate sections about how they change the sets, and they got 35 seconds to do the set change between each act. And that was something that when I saw the Eurovision, I went to Eurovision 2 years ago to when it was in Liverpool, which was just utterly fantastic experience. And I just marveled at the way they changed the sets. And I was like, they should show this. They should show the talent that's involved in cleaning up these sets and putting all the new stuff in and making it all work. It's all like lighting and animatronics and God knows what else, and things rising out of the stage. And you're like, bloody hell. The set changes are really, really impressive. It's something that I really enjoyed about the Eras tour, the Taylor Swift's Eras tour, because she had all these, because each era had its own set up, and it was always different, very different from the one that came before. And I really appreciate when a lot of effort has been put into something, a lot of effort's been put into something to make it look effortless, to make it look like, oh yeah, of course that goes there, of course. But the precision required by the set dressers. Oh my god, like, hats off to them. So I'm glad that they got their own little section last night where they were praised. So yes, and then we've got people saying hi. Wish Graham Norton was political towards Israel last night, says Francis. Well, yeah. And Gallifrey says, one of my favourite Eurovisions ever had a song that contained the lyric, I'm in love with you because of my shoes. I didn't catch it this year. I assumed it liked that lunacy. No, there was one that was about coffee, and it was mad. It was brilliant. Estonia, who came about third, actually. They did really, really well in the public vote, quite rightly, because they were brilliant. They were just mad. UK was brilliant too, says David. I don't know. I mean, they had an absolutely barnstorming chorus, but I think that the setup for the song was a bit underwhelming. I know that they spent a lot of time making it so they got out of bed and then they were on a chandelier and then they went back to bed or something. But I don't know. I think it just missed a little bit of an X factor, and I thought the song was too busy. I thought it was way, way too busy for a Eurovision song, but it had a really great hook. And I think that what the hell happened, that line from the chorus is going to be something that you might see on like TikTok and stuff. Like where you'll see something happen, like a car crash or a boat crash into a bridge or whatever, and then they'll put that soundtrack on it. They're like, what the hell just happened? And then just have that as a little clip. So I could see that happening. So I could see it sort of getting a life of its own. But the kid who did the song for Austria, I mean, bloody hell! There's like a ship in an ocean, and it was very good. It was very good. Bit too high pitched for my liking, but it was very good. Liam saying I miss Terry Wogan. Yeah, we all miss Tezza. God, he was good. He was good. Okay, so moving on. We were talking about this plan of these far right infiltrators. They plan to join as members, and they want to seek candidacies. And they're singling out people who have been online but haven't actually written any neo-Nazi stuff online. So people who have quite a clean social media presence, people who don't have a social media profile, and encouraging their supporters not to have a Facebook profile, not to be on Twitter, not to be permanently online. Because obviously if they've ever written something a bit Nazi, that can be found even if they've deleted it. So they've been told to join as members of Refuck. These are Nazis, by the way. Out and out Nazis. They're not like Refuckers who are Nazis, but, pretend not to be. These are people who are like out and proud Nazis. They've been told to hide their far-right affiliations, join the party and seek candidacies, MPs, mayors, councillors and staffers within the party. And then we've got them planning to use these ground troops to campaign for reform candidates and encourage other far-right micro parties to stand aside. That presumably will include the likes of the BNP, who aren't a party anymore, but they're whatever they've morphed into, because these far-right nutters, they're a tiny minority of the population, but they won't go away. And they have a plan to shift the manifesto from within. And the strategy has been linked to Momentum's influence on Labour, but with fascism instead of socialism. Which is a bit of a worry, because these parties are notoriously easy to infiltrate. As a Labour Party member for over 16 years in 2016, I was not particularly pleased. 2015 actually. So yeah, in 2015, I was not particularly pleased that suddenly I was joined by hundreds, maybe not hundreds, tens of thousands of new members of Labour who were allowed to pay £3 and choose the leader of the Labour Party in 2015. Now, I chose Andy Burnham at the time, and I like to believe, I have no evidence, but, it's what I believe. Whatever, let's agree to disagree. But I believe that thousands of people, Tories mostly, paid £3 to join the party so they could vote for the party leader who was least likely to win an election for Labour. If Andy Burnham had been Labour leader, I don't think we would have pulled out of Europe. I don't think that the Brexit vote would have gone the way it did. I do not believe that Labour would have. I don't believe that Labour would have lost the 2020 election, because if the Brexit vote had been won, we wouldn't have had a 2017 election. We wouldn't have had a 2019 election. But the Tories would have just been fighting amongst themselves like cat and dog, because the whole party was split between the Brexiters and the non-Brexiters. I mean, we might have had a bigger another election to try and seek a bigger majority. But I honestly believe, and there's no way of proving me wrong on this, so good luck with that. I honestly believe if Andy Burnham had won that leadership election in 2015, we would have history would have been very, very different. And this is why I worry about entryists in any party. But in this party, in Refuck, a party that's far right to start with, it's particularly worrying, especially as they have the real power now. I mean, looking at those stats that came out from YouGov on Friday and drilling down into the fact that Labour voters find Ed Davey more appealing than Keir Starmer. The fact that looking at Refuck voters, their respect towards Labour was 4%, and with Labour doing all these horrific right-wing policies, trying to adopt the language of Farage, that number has not grown. No, it has halved. It is now 2%. Why are you throwing away 50% of your own party membership and activists and voters in pursuit of a vanishing percentage, literally vanishing before your very eyes, of Refuck voters? Refuck voters are going to vote Refuck. Nothing you can do. Don't try and appeal to them. Appeal to me. Appeal to the beautiful people in the chat here. Appeal to people who have come here from other countries. Appeal to the trans community, the LGBT community in total, in the whole. Appeal to people who are finding it difficult. Appeal to disabled people. Say you are the party of social justice. But they're not doing that. And this way madness leads. I think Labour are in a real pickle at the moment of their own making. They've shot themselves in the dick, and they don't seem to have realised, which is kind of scary. Anyway, so talk about Refuck. So Refuck won 677 council seats and 31% of the votes in contested areas. They took over 10 councils, including our council here in Durham. It's going to be a fucking skip fire. They're going to sell off, or try to sell off, all of the council-owned properties or assets. We've got library in town. We've got the Gala Theatre in town. We've got the swimming pools across the county that are owned by Durham County Council. They're run by Durham County Council, so you can go and swim there quite cheaply. You can go and use the gym quite cheaply. If they sell that off to, I don't know who the people who own proper gyms that cost, was it £28 a month, is it, to join a gym? It's like ridiculous amounts of money. It's cheaper to drink. It's expensive to drink. Yeah, that whole side of it is really scary to me, because they've got mates who are failed business people who want to get their hands on stuff like that. So even the fact that they, that they're here anyway, without them being infiltrated by the neo-Nazis, and they also won a parliamentary seat in Runcorn and Helsby. They won it by 6 votes. 6 votes. And the first past the post system exaggerates minor votes, minor party wins when votes are geographically concentrated. And already we've seen in this Refuck party that's just won 677 council seats, we've already seen that the vetting process is, just to put it mildly, inadequate. It's inadequate, right? They've already had candidates who are linked to Patriotic Alternative. They've already had multiple suspensions and resignations after exposés, after an old tweet has come to light. And Clews, this David Clews from fucking United News Network, he's bragging that already that their operatives are in branch chairs and on candidate lists. And the short-term outcomes look like this: far-right influence over reform policy on immigration, nationalism, culture war issues, local branches being quietly taken over, growing number of respectable-looking candidates who are harbouring extremist views. In the midterm, we've got the problems that, like, if REFUC gain more seats in Westminster, also if they become a coalition kingmaker with the Tories or official opposition, and if the public discourse shifts further right, which is always an issue, you've got racism, anti-Semitism, transphobia, xenophobia being normalised as the Overton window is dragged further and further to the right. I mean, that we have got to stop. We've got to push back against. And then we've got the fact that in the long term, we've got institutional capture. Entryists get elected. They radicalise the legislation, which is already far too right-wing to begin with. And this is when you see things like the empowerment of vigilante groups offering security, as we've seen in the United States, street-level violence of neo-Nazi thugs linked to the rhetoric. And that would lead to a collapse in trust for democratic institutions, with Nazis in suits becoming legitimised. And so what do we need to do? Well, look, I'm always trying to see the silver lining on any cloud of fuck that is overhead. This could work in our favour, because if we say refucking Nazis, don't vote for the Nazis, and people go, oh, don't say the Nazis, Nigel, oh, he's a darling. He's a darling. He's not a Nazi. He doesn't have a Nazi bone in his body. We can say, oh, well, hang on, they've got this candidate here and they've espoused Nazi views. So that helps. So we need to expose the strategy. We need to name the people involved in REFUC who are doing this. The public has a right to know. We need to demand transparency from REFUC at every step of the way concerning their membership and their candidate selection. And every time someone is found to be a neo-Nazi in their ranks, we need to make a big hullabaloo about it. One of the things that I think, like, why don't we have a left-wing rag, a left-wing paper that's just as bad as the other side for just, twisting what's really happened, twisting things to make people think a different way. They do it to us all the time. If I had my way, if I could, if I'd been born into insane amounts of money like most of the people who run the media in this country, I would have a left-wing rag, and every time there's a criminal on the front cover of the newspaper, maybe a petty criminal, a thief, maybe someone who's done something really horrific, a sex offender, someone running one of these gangs, one of these grooming gangs, right? I would have them down as a Reform supporter every time. Reform supporter found guilty of child sex abuse. That's what I'd have on the front cover of my newspaper. And some of you might be watching this going, God, Graham, that's a bit far, but it's what they do to us. That's what they do to us. If it was a trans person, if it was an immigrant, do you think they wouldn't mention it? Do you think they wouldn't mention it in the newspapers? Of course they fucking do. Every bad thing that happened, I'd just say, Reform voter, Reform supporter. And have it just as a thing that we ask everyone who's a criminal, do you support Reform? And here's the thing, 99% of criminals supported Brexit. Maybe they couldn't vote because they were in jail, but they supported Brexit. 99% of criminals in this country would back Reform because they're a criminal party that criminals seem to like. And we also need to, while Labour are in power, we need to call for stronger electoral vetting laws. Laws properly put through by Labour. They're going to make it harder for people like you and me to vote if they're going to demand that we take some form of ID and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, we can do that. That's fine. However, what you've got to do is tighten up the vetting rules for people running for parliament or running for councils. What you've got to do is give us a fairer system. What you've got to do is give us absolute transparency. And when Russia or other bad actors interfere in our electoral process, I want an investigation into it. I don't just want a telling off for the parties involved. I want them to go to fucking jail. I want them to go to jail for a long time. I want there to be a special jail that is built just for politicians. Out in the moors somewhere. Maybe on a rock in the North Atlantic. Maybe on that Anthrax Island. Maybe we could put them there. And then, so this also reeks of 1930s Germany, which we've talked about a lot over the last few years because it is relevant still. But this is the idea of entryism by Nazis using democratic systems. Using democratic systems against democracy. These people who don't believe in democracy, they don't want democracy. They want to tell people what to do, how to live, who they can have sex with, who they can marry, who they can associate with, who they can work for, how much they have to work, how many hours a week they have to work. They want a totalitarian Stalinist future for this country. They look at 1984 not as a warning, but a handbook. That's the world that these motherfuckers want to create. They are disgusting human beings. They are the worst of us. And they shouldn't be given a platform at all. And under normal circumstances, they wouldn't have a platform. But we're not normal anymore. We've got the internet. We've got streaming platforms. We've got social media. It's not normal anymore. These people have a platform. They find others like them. And you think they don't message each other? They fucking do. They absolutely fucking do. And that's what's scary about it all. We fuckers saying that these people aren't welcome, but the vetting system is broken, the system is rigged. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the leadership says. You can still break in. You don't need to win a revolution with tanks anymore. You need a voter ID, a dog whistle, and a suit. You know, the Nazis don't need to build a Nazi party. They can just hijack one that's halfway there anyway. And that's exactly what they're doing. So, be aware. Eyes open. Right, I'm going to jump into the papers now in a moment. But first of all, I'll read some of your messages. Hi, Scott. Says, Inside. Hello. Pete's Music says, Joanne, it's always good. It's always there for you. It's good therapy. I played a lot of guitar. But less so recently. It gives me numb fingertips sometimes, says Pete's Music. Oh, that's sad. That'd be bad, but fair, I guess, Graham. Is like putting them all in jail. Chrissy, this is where I pull my hair out. State pension isn't like a private pension where you pay into a private pot. The current working generations are paying for the state pensions of the current. Yes. But don't forget, I mean, even the people who are on private pensions, people who retired early in their 50s on final salary pensions, the amount that they paid into that pension, it's 30 years now they've been retired. That they've taken all the money that they ever put in and then some. That's how they can afford to go on so many cruises and buy a new car every year. We can't. You know, the working people can't, but the retired people who have done quite well, thank you very much, out of the pensions that existed in the 80s and 90s that don't exist anymore for our generations. Like, you know, the ones who've done quite well of it. And obviously, before I go on, I've got to say, not all boomers. 1 in 5 boomers lives in poverty. Not all boomers. Not all boomers. But a significant number of boomers who are millionaires who have got these gold-plated pensions, and then they've got the gold-plated, the triple-locked state pension on top of that as well. It's not great. We're paying for it. The people who are working now are paying for those pensions. Paying for those people to do nothing for 30 years when they were perfectly capable of working. And I like any older person who goes on about how the young are all lazy can just, I'm sorry, but they're not. They are not. They are working harder, more hours, and are more productive than older generations ever were. Ever. And yet they're earning less money comparatively for things to buy like houses, a home, a place that you can actually put down a mortgage for and actually own yourself in your 20s. I mean, it's a difficult one. And if you do manage to get a house in your 20s now, you're going to be working, unless you come from ancestral wealth, you're going to be working every hour God sends in order to just keep your head above water. And don't forget, if you miss a mortgage payment, banks can come along and take the house that you have already paid in thousands and thousands of pounds into that mortgage for over the period of, let's say, 10 years. They can wait in and say, no, we're having this now because you missed a payment. I know it's not as simple as that, and I know you can appeal, and blah, 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 but they've got some, duty of care not to do that to their customers, but they do. People say, what radicalised you, Graham? Homes under the hammer. That's what radicalised me, mate. That's what radicalised me. Yeah, I'm looking for my 17th property. I've got a mortgage for it, and I'm going to put someone else in the house, and they can work, and I'll take all their work money. I'll suck it out of them like a straw reaching across the room. I suck up their milkshake. And they can pay for my mortgage. Yeah. My mum's a boomer and struggles, but my stepmom is laughing, so not all boomers. Yes, I just said that. I've got a little animation that comes up, Kate. It says not all boomers, because I know people are going to say that. There you go. Oh, we got a troll. Okay, cool. Thank you for Diz for dealing with that. Which is why I firmly believe that the state pension should be means tested. Once your income assets total more than £75,000 a year, you do not get the state pension. 70,000. The thing is, assets difficult to measure over the course of a year, because like, how much is a house worth for a year? I don't know how you add that up, but that seems quite high. That seems rather high. Homes under the hammer. Yeah. Rich people get richer. Why are those homes going up for auction? Why? Oh, because the occupants didn't have the money to pay the mortgages. So there you go. You can get it for a song and then put some students in there and charge them through the nose. Right. Okay. Let's quickly. I say very quickly, because we've got to go over to the Sunday roast in a few minutes. Gemma Forte is a guest this week, our mate Gemma, so it should be good. So please watch that. It occurred to me that while we've had Marina Perkis on this channel, we never had Gemma on this channel. We will rectify that. I'm in the coming weeks. I'll try and get them both on the channel, if I can. Right, let's go to the papers really, really quickly. We've got Home Guard to protect against attacks. The Sunday Times there. J.K. Rowling on her childhood, life on benefits, and giving away millions, giving away millions, what, to turf organisations, and hating herself, I presume. There's a picture of Ursula von der Leyen there, and Keir Starmer having a smooch on the front cover of the Observer. Kiss and make up, Britain's new deal with Europe, which will be a betrayal. Oh, hang on, here we go. Yes, it is a betrayal. Luckily, there's a picture of a woman from the family, so she's Meghan's bust up with Vogue editor, who wouldn't put her. It's all right. You'll put her on the cover every day. It's Daily Mail, so she doesn't have to worry about that on the cover of stuff. The Wellness Book of the Year. Piss off, wellness. Eve of Surrender Summit. That's what they're calling it. Surrender Summit. Starmer eyes deal to cozy up to Brussels with hundreds of millions of UK taxpayers' cash. Brexit. What Brexit? Britain could be forced to hand hundreds of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money to Brussels every year as part of a new EU deal being negotiated as a surrender summit in London tomorrow. It's funny because when we were fighting against Brexit, I often called the Brexit deal that the Tories were coming up with the surrender deal, because it surrendered absolutely everything that to the EU that the EU wanted. They got £39 billion out of it, of taxpayers' money. But yeah, God, I hate the Mail. What a piece of shit. What a piece of shit newspaper. What an absolute piece of shit. George, thank you so much for the first and possibly last super chat of the morning. That was worth getting out of bed for. Thank you. Whenever anyone comments how fascists can take over, someone always replies, don't be ridiculous. This is a conspiracy theory. Yeah. I'm always worried when people who have studied history, like myself, go, oh, look, parallels. Now let's quickly go to the papers. Back to the papers. Singing for Justice, there, Post Office Choir. I still wake up in a panic about Barbara. That's in the Mirror. We've got Princess tells of struggle with scoliosis. This is Princess Eugenie. So obviously we've got to have someone, member of the family. That sounds pretty awful though. Scoliosis is not pleasant. It's very, very, very painful. Wouldn't wish it on anyone. But why that needs to be on the front cover of a newspaper, I have no idea. Starmer, EU reset will be good for borders. I hope so. Betray Britain at your peril, says, fuck off, says Sunday Express. Raging gulls, half of Britain's assaulted by crazy birds, because we've got very aggressive seagulls here. Okay, so I'm going to head off now. I was up till past midnight last night, drinking and watching the Eurovision. We set a camera up. What's wrong with me? We set a TV up in the backyard and had a couple of mates around. It was good. We had a barbecue. We had a good old-fashioned Eurovision barbecue. But God, when the wind blew, it was bloody cold. So we did our best to enjoy it, despite Israel trying to ruin it for everyone. Didn't quite succeed in ruining it for everyone, I don't feel. But, you know, your mileage may vary. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for Morning Brew. I might be doing a show later with Super Tansky on Super Tansky's channel. That's at Super Tansky with 3 eyes at the end. So look out for that. And yeah, tomorrow morning, definitely. Morning Brew, 9 o'clock. Give us a like on the way out. Please don't forget to give us a like. I'm going to shunt you over now. We're going to have a raid. You ready for a raid? You ready for a raid? We're going to have a raid for the premiere of the Sunday Roast on Political X's channel. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Thanks for Super Chat. Thanks for everyone who dropped a fun little word into the chat there. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.